and gentlemen, welcome to the Indian Nation Station pregame show. We are in studio this evening instead of being outside at Alexander Stadium. There's some rain coming down, gentlemen, so we're going to have to deal with that possibly during the game tonight as well. But we're going to be in studio for this pregame show tonight. Don't forget that Monday nights at 5:30 p.m. will be the showing of all of our Piqua home games, the Monday following the game. Again, I'm AJ Ganger, Dwayne Bachman, Bob Luby here for the Indian Nation Station pregame show. Guys, Piqua's remaining schedule as we get into this. They are 1-1 on the season. Tonight they take on Meadowdale. Next week, another home game, their third one in a row, as they take on Fairborn. And then they'll have two road games in a row on the 21st at Trotwood, the 28th at Sydney. They come back home for Greenville on October 5th. They play Vandalia Butler at Vandalia Butler on October the 12th, Tip City on the 19th, and Troy on the 26th. Guys, another home game tonight and another one next week.
Yeah, it's nice. I think teams like to play at home, and we talked about this a little bit last week. It's just easier. You get a home crowd. The dynamics of the home crowd helps to pump up a football team, I believe, and I think the hometown people obviously like to see a game in Alexander Stadium, Perk Field.
Well, again, I think next week with Fairborn coming to town, I think they're 0-2 at this point in time. So again, the Indians ought to be probably favored. And then, of course, week after that, the clash at Trotwood Madison. That should be a dandy, and I think a lot of people are looking forward to seeing how good the Rams are this particular year. Are they as good as they have been in the past? My chances are it's an awfully good football team.
Guys, are there any games that jump out to you guys so far? I mean, I know we're only in week 3, but we've got all these other games left to play. Any of them jump out at you as being key games for the Indians?
Well, I'm going to say all of them are key.
Right.
Because you get in league play, every game's important. Obviously, too, I think there are teams, some better teams than others on this schedule. Trotwood, strong. Sydney is going to be a real competitive game. Saw them on Play Ball Fountain on television. Never know about Butler.
Yeah.
They've been good. They've been mediocre, but right now they're 1-1. Troy, obviously, the last game will be the key game, I think. Troy's got a real good football team. Almost expect them to be good, and based on their results thus far, they've proven that they're pretty good.
And Troy's the only one left that is undefeated on Piqua's schedule right now.
Right.
Well, as I agree with Bob wholeheartedly that Trotwood, Sydney, and Troy are the three best teams left on the schedule. How good is Sydney? We'll probably find that out in the next couple of weeks. But Trotwood Madison, I think they're going to be pretty strong. Again, I think we've got to be naive to think that Troy isn't going to be an awfully good football game. I think that finale of this season between Piqua and Troy will be very, very interesting.
Now, guys, we look around the scores from week number 2 in the GWalk. The American North had a tough week 1. Only 2 teams out of there actually won their first game. They bounced back in a big way this past week. Sydney beat Bell Fountain on Thursday night at 31-28. We talked a little bit about that on the last pregame show. Troy beating Xenia, a very good Xenia team, 21-14. Vandalia Butler beat Tecumseh 49-28. Tip City 38-7 over Shawnee. Greenville improved to 2-0 as they beat Stebbins 49-19. Another game that jumps out at me, Carroll beating Beaver Creek 25-24. Beaver Creek is now 0-2 on the season, as well as Centerville being 0-2 as they lost to Lakota West 20-14. Guys, any of those GWalk games you want to mention or talk about at this time?
Well, I think Vandalia Butler might be a bit of a sleeper in there. They got off to a slow start, but they put a lot of points on the scoreboard last Friday night. I think we got to be careful. And as Bob says, there are very few teams in here that will be considered easy.
Oh,
if
yeah.
any, it's going to be the Meadowdale Lions.
I was somewhat surprised when I saw how easily Simeon Career Academy defeated Trotwood.
Yeah.
I mean, they put some points up on the board, 33-6. They're out of Chicago, and they had a lot of athletes, I guess, that they really took it to the Rams. So that had to be a shock for Trotwood. They're not used to getting beaten around like that.
Yeah, another team we normally talk about here is Fairmont. They went and played Northmont last week and only lost by 3 points, 24-21. This Fairmont team has came a long way since the last time I've seen them play, guys.
Again, we talked about Dave Miller a lot, formerly the coach at Covington. A young, good football coach, went into Fairmont, took over a program that has struggled immensely over the past few years. No one could win at Fairmont. They had 2 or 3 different coaches in there, and Dave went in and he's turned that program around, so you have to feel pretty good about that situation.
Well, again, I'm like Bob. That happens to be a personal thing because Bob and I were both active when we hired Dave Miller's father, Dave Miller, to coach for a couple of years here at Piqua, and did an outstanding job. We got to know little Dave at the time because he was the ball boy, and then he ends up as the head football coach at Covington. Had lots and lots of success. His approach to football just fits in nicely with Fairmont. I'm glad to see him doing well. He's got a nice future with the Firebirds.
All right, guys, let's go and talk about the Piqua win last week, winning their home opener against Lima Senior 26-6. Bill Nee said that the Indians played their best defensive game that he has seen in a long time. They were also able to force 3 turnovers, which helped them start to pull away from the Spartans in the second half. When the dust settled, it was the Indians who came out on top in this game, 26-6, to pick up their first victory of the season. Micah Karn was 6 of 14 passing, 65 yards, a touchdown, and he did throw an interception as well, which was a mistake. I mean, he threw it across his body. I think he knew that was a dangerous play. He had 17 carries, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Corrine Coleman, 7 rushes, 82 yards. McKeegan Kuhn, 8 rushes, 63 yards. Matt Blankenship, 8 rushes, 28 yards. Colin Rose, 6 rushes, 39 yards, and 1 catch, which was a touchdown catch for 19 yards. Karn also had 2 INTs on defense, and Blaine Uhl came up with a big INT in the fourth quarter as well. I mean, guys, Micah Karn is doing it all for the Piqua Indians right now, offense and defense.
Yeah, he's a good quarterback. I think, just this is my opinion, I think coaches get a little nervous as much as he runs the football.
Yeah.
Because he's a stalwart on defense as well as offense, and you can't afford to lose a guy like Micah Karn. But he's a gamer, boy. He gets in there and plays. Thing I like about it, the Indians have a nice stable of running backs.
Yeah.
We talked about that off camera here a few minutes ago. They got 4 guys that they can put in there and probably not lose a step with any of them. They've all performed very well. And overall, the team from game 1 to game 2, tremendous improvement. I think you'll find coaches will say during the course of the year, that's the second game is the game you get more improvement from than anywhere along the line. In other words, from game 1 to game 2, you're going to get most of your improvement. You may improve along the way further, deeper into the schedule, but game 1 to game 2, you're going to see your greatest amount of improvement.
And I agree with Bob. I know Coach Neese liked what the defense did. I'll be real honest with you. If I had to pick out an MVP last Friday night, it would be the offensive coordinator who did such a great job of play calling. Bob was mentioning the stable of running backs that Piqua's got. Folks, let's look at the list. I've got it right here. Colin Rowe, he's a junior. We've got, I'll tell you, the one that impressed me is number 8, Jarrell Lewis. He's a sophomore. He's 6'1", 242. And as I looked at the replay, this young fella has a bright future. He's a good one. Mike, of course, we know Mike is going to be a good runner, a little reckless on occasion, jumping over people, but that's just Micah Karn. We've got Corrine Coleman, a freshman of all people. And then we've got McKeegan Kuhn. He had a good game. And we had Matt Blankenship. You look at that running attack that Piqua's got, I think, and they're young, I think we've got some very, very big days ahead of us, and I really believe that that group, with the offensive coordinator spreading the runs out like he did, that puts a lot of pressure on the defense. They can't worry about Micah Karn and one other runner. They got to worry about Micah Karn and 4 or 5 other runners. I think that's a devastating offensive lineup.
And AJ, you know another reason that happened, why we were so successful running the football? Our offensive line.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
they did
Bob.
a great job.
Played very well. focused on a couple of them throughout the game, and they were knocking people off the line of scrimmage, sustaining blocks, driving people downfield, and that's what opened up those running lanes for the backs.
They even drove a guy out of bounds on a double team. I was standing right there when they drove him out of bounds.
Yeah, I was afraid they were going to get a whistle because I thought they were going to take him up in section 16 for a minute there.
They almost did.
They kept going and going and going. Legs were pumping, and offensive linemen don't get as much credit as they deserve.
No, they really don't.
We talk about the backs, we talk about the quarterbacks, we talk about the receivers. Those guys are getting dirty down in a little dirty on artificial turf. You don't get real dirty.
No.
You get smelly maybe working so hard, but they did a great job, and we'll talk about this later during the game. I have some talked to Coach Neese this week to get the offensive, defensive, and special team players of the game. He's got a couple offensive linemen that were the award winners from the offense. Now you think about that, all these guys rushing for a lot of yards. The coaches decided those offensive linemen are going to get the credit this week.
Yeah, they only had 65 yards passing, but on the day they ended up with 372 yards total. So you do the math, Piqua rushed the ball for 307 yards last week. Micah Karn, all those skill players, they should go out and buy those offensive linemen dinner for the next 2 weeks.
Should be nice to them. Should be in the NFL. They buy them watches.
They buy them watches and shoes and cars.
Our guys can't afford what. They can just tell them what time it is. That's how they'll scale it down. I'll tell you another thing, AJ, that impressed me: time of possession.
Yeah.
And this is what you have to do to win a football game. Piqua had the ball for 33 minutes and 26 seconds. Lima had it for just a little over 14 minutes. If they don't have the ball much, they're not going to score.
Yeah.
And that's what the key thing is for Piqua. If they can establish a running game, maintain the football, first downs, not a lot of 3 and outs, just push down the field, you'll be able to play with anybody.
Yeah, you really will. They were 11 for 16 on third downs too, Dwayne. That's a big improvement from week 1.
Well, and it was, but again, I don't want to redo what I made such a deal about last Friday night, but I'm going to, only because I said at the time, one of the most telling statistics of this season is going to be turnovers.
Yep.
And if you look carefully, the first 2 games, Piqua turned it over once in each game. If they would be able to maintain that, and that might be awfully difficult, that's going to be big by the time we get to the middle and the end of this season. Turnovers, in my estimation, the team with the most turnovers is going to lose. And if you look at the first 2 games, the first game, you'll see that. But again, turnovers is big, and the Indians are holding on to that football. I'm impressed by that as well.
Guys, any final thoughts on this game? Piqua did kind of start out a little sluggish on offense, I will say. And you're talking about how Karn, the coaches are really concerned about how many times he runs the ball. I think some of those read option plays, he could have handed it off maybe a few more times, and he did come out of the game for a couple of seconds after getting his bell rung. Any final thoughts on the Lima Senior game before we move on?
Well, the only thing I can say is I believe that the Lima Senior High Spartans were a bit overrated. They came in with a reputation of this is our year, we have outstanding athletes. They did not measure up, in my judgment, to the hype that was coming back from Allen County. I was disappointed that Rasheed Wallace was not any more of a factor than he ended up being. I just think that, and maybe because I think Piqua just played much better.
Yeah.
If there was ever a case where the best team won last Friday night, that was the case.
Bob?
Can't disagree with it, and time to move on to tonight.
Week number 3. We are here in week number 3 now. A game that happened last night. Bob, I believe you have the score written down over there. Greenville against CJ on Thursday Night Lights. How did that game come out?
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. CJ kind of reminded everybody how good they are.
Yeah.
They put 58 points on the board. And, we talked after the CJ game wondering, how good are they? Are we that bad? Are they that good? Or is it a combination of both? I'll tell you, CJ's a good football team. I missed the game. I didn't get to watch it on television. I had to go away somewhere, but saw the film clips on the sports last night on the news. And I'll tell you, they ran the ball well. They threw it well. Had a couple guys that caught it. And the transfer quarterback, he's earning his transfer hours, I'll tell you. He just was a tremendous leader. And CJ is a team to be reckoned with. And unfortunately, they're in our computer region.
Yeah.
So, down the road, if Piqua qualifies for the playoffs, you got CJ, you got Trotwood, and you got Kettering Alter in the same district, region we're in. So it's not going to be a walk in the park. 58-16, CJ humbled Greenville, and Greenville was 2-0.
Yeah.
And that was another question. People were saying, is Greenville that good this year? Well, they'd beaten two teams, Eaton and Stebbins, who aren't particularly powerhouses, and I think it showed when they went into Chaminade.
And also another big game, Troy plays Turpin, Butler plays Wilmington, Sydney is at Belmont, Tip City is at Northmont, along with a few other games on here. Fairmont plays Milford, Centerville plays Alter. Guys, any of these week 2 games, one it's going to be tough. Springboro and Gahanna-Lincoln, that's a road game for Springboro. Any games that you guys are looking out for this week in the G-Walk?
Couple I think would be good games. I'm not sure it won't affect us too much. Wayne plays Archbishop Hoban.
Yes.
Out of Akron, I believe, and Hoban's a Division II, but they're 2-0 right now. And you know who they've beaten?
Who?
Cleveland St. Ignatius.
Oh.
And
yeah.
that's not a club team.
No.
St. Ignatius is a powerful Division I football team up in Cleveland, and they also beat Youngstown Cardinal Mooney, which is a team that's been in the state playoffs many, many times. So I think Wayne will have their hands full. Another one, Trotwood. They're going to play Pickerington Central.
Yep.
Pick Central's 2-0.
We know Central really well. We beat them back in 2006 to win the title.
Had the opportunity to broadcast that game and over in Massillon and enjoyed every second of it.
It was cold, but it was fun.
It was.
Well, I'm going to keep my eye on Tip City Northmont. I think Northmont will be the odds-on favorite to win it, but the fact that we've got Tip City on our schedule might give us a little bit of a grasp of how good the Tip City Red Devils really are. I think Northmont's awfully good. If Tip City could get close, that would tell me that we've got to be very, very careful when the Red Devils come to Piqua.
How good's Cincinnati Turpin?
Turpin's
They're 2-0.
They're pretty
2-0.
good. I mean, it's going to be a huge test for the Trojans tonight.
They're 2-0, but I checked. I was kind of curious to see who Turpin beat. They'd beaten New Philadelphia.
And Northwest, yeah.
Yeah, and both those teams are 0-2.
Yeah.
So maybe Turpin's not as, but it could be. You never know. We'll find out a little bit tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir, we will. Guys, let's take a look before we get into our game here tonight with the G-Walk American North standings. Yeah, it's kind of out of whack here. Troy and Greenville at top. Greenville's obviously going to fall down where everybody else is with that loss. Troy being the only undefeated team left, and you have Butler, Piqua, Tip City, Sydney. Right now, it's pretty much anybody's race before we even get into the American North play here in the next few weeks. Who's your guys' favorite to win? Obviously, I think Piqua's going to win it if they keep playing as good as what they did last Friday night. But you guys have any other favorite maybe, or do you guys still favor Piqua?
Well, I like Piqua after seeing him last Friday night, but I think I'd be naive if I didn't think that Troy might be the second best team in the North, and I think the Trojans and that last game could be for a playoff spot.
I have to agree. Piqua, we're Piqua people. We support our team, and we're good. I think we're a pretty good football team. But I think also that Troy's a pretty good football team. I think it'll come down to Piqua-Troy. Last game of the year out here in Alexander Stadium. Big crowd. Hope it's a warm night, nice night, no rain, no lightning, no thunder. And we watch Piqua get after Troy.
I think, I was thinking in my head, well, Greenville may be one of the teams to beat in the American North. And then I saw you said that score against CJ last night, and Piqua played CJ pretty well. And now I'm starting to think, well, maybe Greenville isn't all what Greenville is made out to be so far. So I was maybe looking at Greenville for the team to beat, but I have to agree with you guys. Troy is probably the team to beat. Piqua's going to have to beat them on their home field this year.
I think Troy will be in the middle. Greenville will be in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're a bad football team.
No,
I just don't think they're as good as some people were making them out to be early.
Yeah.
I think Troy is going to be the team to beat. Everybody else in the North, it could be however well you play on that particular night. I think, but when we sit here prior to the Troy game, I think we want to remember this conversation.
Yeah. I think we will too. All right, guys, now it's time to get into our game here tonight between Piqua and Meadowdale. Piqua's coming off their first one of the season last week against Lima Senior and are looking to make it 2 straight victories in a row. Meadowdale comes in tonight with a 1-1 record, beating the Columbus Crusaders, which you said was a club team, 38-6 in week 1, and then they fell to Urbana last week, 62-30. Give me some keys to the games here, guys.
Well, again, I believe that to be realistic, this series with Meadowdale has to come to an end. I don't believe the Meadowdale Piqua football series has proven anything for anybody. And again, I think tonight we could have a combination of rain, lightning, and a running clock. Again, it's one of those cases where as you look at the Meadowdale program, Bob and I got their rosters. 15 players on the roster. We got their starting lineup. 2 players on the starting lineup grid we don't even have names for. I tend to think the program is not good, hasn't been very good, and I would hope that perhaps this might be the last year with Meadowdale on the schedule. They do nothing for anybody. I know you might say, well, if it's lopsided, the younger kids get a chance to play. I'm asking myself, is that worth it?
Again, I'm guessing, not having seen Meadowdale play, they probably aren't a very good football team. They do have a good quarterback, I've been told. And when I was talking to different people and the coaches, they like the quarterback. Capable of making plays, capable of throwing the football pretty well. But overall, they wouldn't say it. Everybody's a good, when you're a coach, everybody's a good team.
Yeah.
You have to take that approach.
Yeah.
You don't go ahead and say, we don't think they're very good. We shouldn't have a hard time tonight. That's when you get your tailbone. That's when you get your tailbone worked on a little bit, kicked. But anyway, I think Piqua's going to have to come out and do what they do well. I think run the football. Gives them an opportunity to fine-tune their running game, continue to fine-tune it, do well running the ball, and defensively not allow the big play. Keep that defensive unit cohesive, and thirdly, force turnovers. I always like to see a football team tackles the football, head on the football, and just knock the thing out of an opponent's hands. I think Piqua will play well tonight, even though we're in inclement conditions. The ball probably be a little slippery. Yeah, you're probably going to see some fumbles out there, but overall, I think just Piqua's a better football team.
Well, hopefully we can see some of that offensive line play like we got last week, because obviously, like you guys said, a game like this is going to be hard to throw the football in, getting the remnants of that hurricane coming up this weekend, so obviously we're going to definitely see some rain. Guys, any final thoughts here before we get out of here?
Well, I think my final thought is I'd like to think that we can get this game behind us, look forward to Fairborn and then Trotwood Madison, and that'll keep the coaches busy. The coaches are going to be at it on Monday. Well, probably be at it on Saturday, because those 2 games are important. Piqua cannot afford to stub their toe against some of these other schools, and that's why I think Fairborn is not one to be taken for granted either.
My last thought would be, let's not have a weather delay tonight.
Yes, I agree with you guys 100%. All righty. That's all we have for tonight here on the Indian Nation Station pregame show. Join us next week as we get you ready for week number 4 already of the high school football season, as the Indians will play host to the Fairborn Skyhawks. The game's coming up next here on the Indian Nation Station. For Dwayne Bachman and Bob Luby, I'm AJ Ganger saying good night and go Indians.